Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are on the planet. My name is Adamantium, and welcome to this edition of AAU TZM Podcasts. And today I'm very pleased to announce that I'm going to be talking to Doug Mallette. Would you like to introduce yourself, Doug?
Sure. Hello, everyone. My name is Douglas Mallette. I'm currently a systems engineer with the Space Shuttle program for as long as that lasts, for about another month and a half. I'm the creator of the Zeitgeist movement-related film Awakening, also Our Technical Reality. Public speaker. I lectures to the Houston Humanists organization. I've done several radio shows. I went to Switzerland and gave a hour-and-a-half long workshop there at the Initiatives of Change conference related to the resource-based economic model in support of the Venus Project. And I guess I'm one of the more well-known people in the movement. Not that I did that on purpose, but it just kind of became that. So that's who I am.
So you are still working with the Space Shuttle program presently? Right.
Just got the official word this last Friday that my last day will be July 22nd. And so that's when all of us are going to be released. All of the different levels of work that are involved in the Space Shuttle program. You've got NASA itself, which is the prime customer. Believe it or not, NASA's the customer, not the originator. People don't really know how the Space Shuttle program works, but NASA does not even own the Space Shuttle. Boeing or actually Rockwell Systems, but then was bought out by Boeing. Were the ones that were contracted to design and build the Space Shuttle.
I see.
And so it's actually a Boeing spaceship that NASA uses, or has on lease, I guess you could say. And so a lot of the maintenance and whatnot is done by Boeing or through the joint company of Boeing and Lockheed, which is called United Space Alliance, which is USA. Those are the people, if you ever watch a launch, you see the white bunny suits of people walking around doing stuff during launch and all that. Those are all USA and NASA people. And so USA is a merge of Boeing and Lockheed. That company was specifically created to facilitate. But anyway, and then you've got all the subcontractors, and there are hundreds of them. They are part suppliers. They are logistics personnel. They are all different levels of need. And the company that I work for, I work with the Boeing people in the Boeing building with all the Boeing stuff, but I am not a Boeing employee. But that really doesn't matter because the way the contracts are all set up, we're all basically the same people in a pod. We're all working with the Space Shuttle program as an umbrella. So, yeah, the Space Shuttle is going away, and Endeavour, the Space Shuttle that I'm specifically attached to, getting ready to go through its process, its breakdown process of getting all the engines out and things like that. We got one more mission for Atlantis, which is supposed to be around July 8th, plus or minus a couple of days, depending upon weather and whatnot. And then that'll be it. I was going to say, she was up there for 14 plus 2. I want to say she was up there for 16 days. I kind of lose track. I don't have a whole lot to do with on-orbit operations. A lot of my work, all of my work is pre-flight and post-flight stuff related to the configuration of the payload bay and what we took up, what we brought back, all the code numbers and everything associated with it. Basically, we track every nut and bolt. That way and everything has a code number. And that way we make sure that everything is accounted for, because in space exploration you don't want to accidentally take up too much or leave something behind.
Yeah. Next on our agenda, I think one thing, I've probably asked you this in the past, but how did you originally come across the movement?
Yes. Well, it was I was in college. I went to college a little bit later in life, so I'm actually not that far removed from getting my degree. I graduated in 2007, December of 2007, with my engineering degree. And so while I was in college, I want to say it was about my sophomore year, so that'd be 04-ish, plus or minus, I saw the original Zeitgeist. I thought, well, that's cool. I thought, wow, this is going to piss off a lot of religious people.
Yeah, I thought that as well.
I did. I found the information interesting. I also saw some of the holes that were in it and stuff like that, and I thought, well, it was fun. But I didn't become a Zeitgeister, off of the original. I thought it was interesting, and then I moved on with my life because it just didn't pull me enough, that my scientific analytic mind wanted to see more sources, see more information, more direct correlation, and I'm not a big 9/11 truther. Not that I do or don't agree with what they're talking about. I think the truth is always important. However, you do get to a point to where even if the truth was revealed and it's the truth that you want, is it going to change anything?
Yeah.
I mean, at this particular point, I really don't see anything happen. They'll say, well, we can arrest the people that did it, and we can bring them to terms, and we can show what America did, and blah, blah, blah. I was like, okay.
What does that actually do? Yeah.
Is that going to change the system?
No.
No.
Not at all. I mean...
So, I don't find it to be a very profitable, bad word. I don't find it to be a very useful argument.
Yeah.
To really getting the system to change. I think it's a great source for the symptom, the problem.
Yeah.
Doesn't really talk about the disease that much. And so, but then the money bit at the end does start talking about the disease a little bit, which was better. And so I watched the original Zeitgeist, okay, and then Addendum came out, and it took me a little while to get to Addendum, but Addendum was the one where it got a little bit more meaty, and I found it to be a lot more interesting and a lot better thought out. I mean, and this was revealed later on. Even Peter Joseph himself said, the first, I'm paraphrasing the way I look at it, the original Zeitgeist was the ranting of a young man who was just tired of all the bullshit. Okay. He was just tired of all the BS and just wanted to vent. And so that's what the original Zeitgeist was an artistic venting of a young man upset at the system. And he just threw everything out there. Whether it was accurate or not, that wasn't the point. He just wanted to yell and scream at the wall for a moment, and that's exactly what he did. It just so happened he got famous, real fast. Can't expect anybody to assume that was going to happen. There's no way that Peter would have known that 50 million odd people were going to suddenly just, take it and run. And so then that's where Addendum, I think, was a little more thought out. And of course, at that point, made contact with Jacques Fresco and the Venus Project, and that's why towards the end, of course, we get the solution, which was what I was really hoping for. I'm not really interested in people just whining about problems. I'm a solution guy. I'm an engineer. So engineers and scientists, people say, okay, here's the problem. How do we fix it? Here's what the solution is. We don't just sit back and go, wow, this is a problem, and stop.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what are you going to create that's omnipresent that allows everyone on the planet to enjoy a high standard of living? Not going to do it because money is the whole point of this value. It's a measurement tool. We have to assign value to something. Well, value is a very distorted commodity or a distorted idea. What's valuable to one person isn't valuable to somebody else. It's quite subjective. If it is objective, which I don't see how anything can be objectively valuable. It either is or it isn't, and different people put different values on things. But let's go to something that's very basic, food. We all know that food is biologically required, period. Mm-hmm. There's no reason whatsoever that any human being on this planet should be starving at all. However, money dictates whether or not somebody can get food. How stupid is that?
Exactly. I mean, it's very much like what I tell people every now and then that when it comes to our rights, as human beings, we're supposed to have life. Well, I boil it down to just life and liberty, or just life. The right to life is supposed to be an inalienable human right, correct? And they said, yeah. And I say, well, what do you need in order to live? And we go through the hierarchy of needs and stuff, blah, 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 blah. And I say, well, I'll tell you what, just take food, for example. Just isolate that one and let's just concentrate on that. Do you have a right to food? Well, yeah. And I say, well, you only have a right to food if you have the purchasing power for it, because you can demand that service if you have it. And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, can everyone afford that food? And they're like, obviously not. So, and I say, so in our current system, do we have the right to life? And they're like, no.
Exactly.
So I say to them, so in summary, our system is actually a violation of human rights. And they're kind of like, well, yeah, I kind of see where you're coming from.
And that's just food. Let's start applying it to a whole host of other biological needs. And
absolutely.
And then quality of life needs like, suitable shelter and comforts and stuff like that. And yeah, it's a mess. So anyway, it was addendum that really sparked my interest because they introduced the Venus Project, and I was like, holy crap, finally a technical solution, an actual way to fix it in the 21st century. And that's what really got me involved with doing a lot more research. And then I'm like, okay, I'm an engineer guy, so I try to look at all data points. So I started looking at other groups and other organizations like the Zeitgeist Movement and like the Venus Project, because at the time, obviously, they were married together. And so I was looking at technocracy. I was at Equal Money. I was looking at all these different ideas that were on the table. And I still kept coming back to the Zeitgeist Movement and the Venus Project is what I found to be a more reasonable solution set. And the only reason why, as far as I'm concerned, is the word abundance. It is abundance that makes the major difference in whether or not any other of the systems are viable or not. And you don't need a medium of exchange in any capacity if you have an abundance of something. The reason why we don't pay for air is because air is abundant. It is naturally processed through biological means. It is in the atmosphere. Nobody can control it. People can screw it up, but they really can't control it. And so having that clean air in abundance, there's no way somebody can bottle it up and sell it to you. So there's no market for it. That's kind of why I'm getting back to markets.
Yeah.
Exchange requires a market, a place to buy and sell or trade such goods. This is why trade and barter is irrelevant too. People said the RBE is nothing but a trade and barter system. Actually, no, it's not. It's an access system. And the reason why it's access only is because it's created in abundance. There's no need to trade. Why trade for something that you can readily just go get yourself? That defeats the point. The whole point of trade is because you cannot get something and need to trade for it. Well, there is no need to trade in a resource-based economic system because everything that you need is created in abundance, and it's done so through technical means. I got into a conversation with somebody, the difference between 200,000 years ago and today. 200,000 years ago, you had the hunter-gatherers who lived low qualities of life, but they lived within natural abundance. Natural abundance, meaning there wasn't a whole lot of people on the planet, and nature was able to abundantly provide food, shelter, or food and water, and their biological needs, and then they could kind of throw together what they wanted or use caves or whatever to live in for some of the other needs. Now, their quality of life wasn't that great. That's a given. But their access to the needs of life were abundant. So what is the resource-based economic model suggesting? It's saying we have technical abundance, but now we can do a high quality of life. So we've upgraded. We've gone from natural abundance and a low quality of life to technical abundance and a high quality of life. Both paradigms did not have a trade and barter system or did not have any need for a system of exchange because the tribes in the hunter-gatherer age were of their own little nomadic ways, and they didn't really trade or connect with other tribes that frequently. Not enough to create a quote-unquote system of exchange. It was only as populations of the planet started to grow and people started running into each other more often, developing trade systems from different regions because of deficiencies, because one part of the planet had something that another part of the planet didn't, or people came up with different ways of using the resources they